New dungeon Vesper's host dropped semi-recently, so I wanted to do what I've done many other times and compile a quick loot guide for the 4 new weapons that we've gotten. That includes examining each weapon and their god rolls for both PvE and PvP enthusiasts, as well as what encounters they drop from. And while I know there are only 4 weapons in this dungeon, do not overlook them. I guarantee you will see titles and thumbnails, if you somehow haven't already, about each of these saying they're broken or, whatever stupid buzzword. So if you enjoy this guide, definitely leave a like and subscribe because I do these for just about every new set of weapons. And with that said, let's get started with the auto rifle, VS Pyroelectric Propellant. I'm just going to call this one Propellant moving forward. It's a 600 RPM adaptive auto rifle that features arc, and while arc isn't necessarily the best in the artifact this season for builds, Propellant does not disappoint. For the first column, we've got Strategist, Eddy Current, Killing Wind, Fragile Focus, To the Pain, and Attrition Orbs. For the second column, there's Onslaught, Swashbuckler, Kill Clip, Target Lock Closing Time, and Jolting Feedback. Right out the gate for PvE, I'm seeing Eddy Current and Jolting Feedback. Great combination there. You've got Jolting, super fast reloading after sprinting or being amplified, which is really simple. Really great loot. Anytime you have traits that keep the bullets flying, and subclass verb interaction is a great thing. Jolting Feedback is definitely one of my favorite new traits. And one quick thing about Jolting Feedback, I thought at first it was kind of like Kinetic Tremors, where you had to land the magazine threshold on a single target to apply the tremors. I assumed you'd have to mow down larger targets for it to take effect. I assumed you'd have to just focus on larger targets for it to take effect, and that you wouldn't really ever proc it on red bars. But that's really not how it works at all. The trait specifically says Jolting Feedback will jolt targets after dealing repeated damage, so it can actually be spread out among targets, which is fantastic. It procs more like rewind rounds or attrition orbs, where you just have to land a certain amount of shots, but it doesn't really matter across how many targets. I love Jolting Feedback. I think it's a great trait. I highly recommend you give it a try as well. Combined with Eddy Current, great combination there. I'm also seeing Strategist in the first column though. That's nice for any Ascension or maybe Vesper Radius Warlocks for storing some class ability energy on kills. And then there's just some classic damage options like Kill Clip or Swashbuckler. They're not my favorite, but these traits are still pretty effective for what they do. And if you have a melee build and want to use this weapon, Swashbuckler is going to be just fine. I think even Eddy Current and Onslaught would be really fun for the increased rate of fire and the super fast reloads. Just something about Onslaught that's fun about dumping a mag in like 2 seconds flat. There's a few options I'll be keeping my eye out for, but overall I think the PvE god roll is still going to be Eddy Current and Jolting Feedback. Now for PvP, there are a few options I'm really interested in. Killing Wind and Onslaught are both focused on post-kill, and are going to speed up your time to kill and also give you a ton of range and handling, especially on adaptive auto rifles that start to fall off a little bit against the range of high impact autos or pulse rifles, especially weapons like Bygones. Killing Wind is going to help out a lot. It's fast enough to reload too, so you could try Kill Clip as well. It's just a simple, effective 25% extra damage. Another PvP option I'm interested in is Fragile Focus and Target Lock. This role is kind of on the opposite end of Killing Wind and Onslaught, where you need a kill to get going. Fragile and Target Lock are both going to affect your first duel immediately. All the benefits are up front instead of after a kill. Fragile is going to give Propellant a nice plus 20 range boost if your shields are up, alongside the damage increase from Target Lock. And just remember, when it comes to Target Lock, it only got nerfed on SMGs a few months back, so it's still a legit option on other weapons for PvP. I think Fragile and Target Lock would make a fantastic pairing in the neutral game. Definitely a role that would excel in something like Trials. To the Pain is also excellent, improving handling and aim assist when you take damage, and as long as you don't stow the weapons, you're going to keep the stacks that you gain. So it has the potential to be kind of a post-kill perk, but also a neutral game where you can just have full health and go into your next duel with it if you survive. So I really like To the Pain. I think it's a pretty effective perk, and combined with something like Closing Time to increase the accuracy, range, and handling as your magazine gets lower, your stats are going to be so cranked, I don't know how you'd lose your next duel. Closing Time is actually pretty effective. I like it quite a bit on yesterday's question. I think it helps with that weapon shortcomings, and I think it'll definitely help with Propellant here. That role kind of makes sense to me because it's rewarding you for surviving a duel, and both traits are going to help you win your next duel, not by necessarily boosting damage, but just massively boosting your stats. For weapon number 2, we've got one that is definitely going to turn some heads in PvP because it's both the right archetype and has incredible traits. BS Gravitic Arrest is a void adaptive frame fusion rifle, a very balanced but effective archetype of fusion that's pretty comfortable in close range and also capable in mid ranges. Heating Up, Under Pressure, and To the Pain are all going to be excellent picks in the first column. Just going to make your shots a lot easier to land, and then you can stack on either Fragile Focus, Kickstart, or Closing Time. And that last one is a trait I'm really interested in. We just talked about it. is you can pair it with Under Pressure. Both Under Pressure and Closing Time have the same activation requirement, low magazine. Other traits like Heating Up are great. I mean, Heating Up is a great perk. I think it's a little bit slept on because it's a little bit older. Still a great trait. I don't think people talk about it enough, but that still requires a kill. And the special ammo economy is definitely smaller than it used to be. So perks like Closing Time and Under Pressure are literally perfect because you start with one shot. No matter what you do, it's going to provide bonuses to range, accuracy, stability, and handling right out the gate. You got your one shot. The effects are maxed out. It's absolutely wild. Accuracy is a huge influence on how a weapon feels. It helps your weapon just feel right. It lands the shots that you should be landing. Accuracy determines that feel a lot, and it's a massively important stat, especially on weapons like fusion rifles. That roll is going to be my go-to if I can ever get it. Of course, my friend got it on our very first run. That said, I think Under Pressure and Kickstart would also be a fantastic combo as well. I used that for a long time on my Adept Plug 1. That served me really well. Got the increased accuracy and stability, slightly faster charge speed. Can't really go wrong. Great if you have an aggressive playstyle. I also like the look of To the Pain and Fragile Focus. Those two perks are kind of doing different things, but fusions take time to charge, and odds are in that time you're taking damage. To the Pain will boost aim assist while you do, and if they don't punish you fast enough to lose the Fragile Focus buff, then you've just got a handy plus 20 range, which always helps on fusions. Sometimes with weapons, I like to choose traits that mitigate the drawbacks of other traits so I can get a balanced experience out of it on both ends of a duel. Kind of like Fragile Focus and Eye of the Storm. I feel like that's kind of a perfect Zen pairing there. We don't have that combination here, of course, but To the Pain and Fragile Focus is kind of a similar situation here. Last one, Heating Up and Successful Warm-Up will be disgusting if you have the ammo for it. Just a single kill is going to grant you significant stability and accuracy buffs, and then way faster charge speed to absolutely torch your next target. It's definitely an aggressive role, but if you can manage the ammo, get some kills with your primary, and just start stacking up the ammo bricks, you're going to destroy with this roll. And something I'm a really big fan of on these weapons is just how clear the sight picture is too. Just a good clean scope with a visible but unobtrusive sight. I think it's quite nice, and I think overall these weapons feel pretty good to shoot with. For PvE, this is a little bit short. I'm not crazy about fusion rifles. Feels like in a lot of cases other weapons are just going to do fusion rifles' job better, but there are some fun rolls. I think Demolitionist and Chain Reaction would be really fun, feeding some grenade energy into your builds as well as some extra explosions just for the chaos factor. Probably going to be fun for volatile builds. Then of course there's Repulsor Brace and the new trait this season, Weakening Gaze. Weakening, depending on the season, is usually a little bit more difficult to apply, but Weakening Gaze states that just aiming for a short period of time before firing will weaken the target, and that sounds like a really fun support option to me. If you like playing the support role for your teammates in Nightfalls, raids, whatever it is, I think Weakening Gaze is going to be a really fun option. Just easy, consistent weakening that's going to help out your teammates. This season we've got Breach and Clear, and it's really easy to weaken targets that way, but other seasons you don't always have weakening debuffs that are so readily available, and I think Weakening Gaze on this fusion rifle would be kind of a nice option. Overall, some really solid trait combinations, which I will absolutely be grinding for. If you want to run the dungeon with me sometime, definitely join the Discord linked in the description. We've got an LFG over there with a small group of friendly people that I'm sure if you schedule something, you can make something work. For our third weapon, we've got the Void Special Ammo Area Denial Grenade Launcher. Just the second of its kind next to Lost Signal. VS Velocity Baton is most definitely a PvE weapon, so I'm actually just going to focus all my time there. I genuinely have no idea what you do to make this thing work in PvP. For PvE, I think you'd be safe with Demolitionist, Unrelenting, or Repulsor Brace in the first column, and then second column has Attrition Orbs, Bait and Switch, High Ground, Adagio, and Destabilizing Rounds. I've heard Reverberation is garbage and it only affects the direct impact, so I wouldn't worry about that. Other than that, there are some definitely very interesting trait combos to look at here. None more than Attrition Orbs. As I'm sure you all know, you've seen the videos by now, Velocity Baton with Attrition Orbs is capable of spawning 2 orbs in a single burst. It's a little ridiculous. I mean, talk about a support weapon. You can fuel your teammates' supers a little bit, also provide incredibly easy armor charges to grant them better stats, surges, ability regen, whatever they build to. Grenade regen on orb pickup, maybe special ammo finisher. It's really fantastic to see more support weapons, and they're kind of weaving their way into the game in a way that you wouldn't necessarily expect. I'm really enjoying that. So there's that. You've got Attrition Orbs. I think the Stabilizing Rounds is also kind of fun. There's also Slick Draw and Bait and Switch. You could use that for some DPS rotations, especially if you have a heavy weapon with an Envious Arsenal. This role might be your best option, not so much because of the actual damage that it deals itself, just more the utility that it provides. Lastly, at number 4, we've got the Grenade Launcher, VS Chill Inhibitor, which is, surprise, a stasis grenade launcher. Kind of have a lot of those weapons this season. So rapid fire, which is great because firing more grenades faster is just more fun. And like everyone else has mentioned by now, chill inhibitor supports envious arsenal. So dealing damage with your other weapons will keep inhibitor topped off as well. Combine that with bait and switch. Yeah, what a fantastic trait combination. Sometimes Bungie just refuses to put the most logical trait combos on weapons because it just would be too nice. There are some really fun interactions. Attrition orbs on velocity baton, under pressure and closing time on the fusion rifle, and now envious arsenal and bait and switch on the heavy grenade launcher. Those rolls right there are just the definitive god rolls. They're unique, they're effective, they're a lot of fun. Now, if you don't like messing around with all three weapons for DPS, you could try Cascade Point for faster rate of fire after landing headshots with other weapons, although that's still kind of requiring other weapons, at least 2 of them. And then tack on perhaps, and then maybe just tack on Explosive Light, one for all or surrounded for the extra damage, depending on what's easiest to make work. Those are certainly options for you, but seriously, I don't think any of these traits can hold a candle to Envious Arsenal and Bait and Switch. That's the good stuff right there, and with the artifact being so heavily favorable to grenade launchers this episode, it's kind of a no-brainer. For PvP, straight up, use other grenade launchers. If you want your heavy to count, this just isn't it. You want impulse amplifiers so your grenades travel super fast and they're just almost impossible to avoid, and that's not here. So really the only trait I'd recommend if you really want to use this weapon for PvP is Explosive Light. You never know when you're going to randomly pick up an orb or two and you'll squeeze out a little extra damage. Maybe it'll save a kill when you normally wouldn't have gotten it. It's a great weapon in PvE for sure, but there are just going to be better options in PvP if you want to use a good grenade launcher. So there it is. There's your loot guide for the dungeon. I really appreciate you watching. I know there are other creators you could be watching, and I'm like a couple weeks late anyways, but I really appreciate you watching this loot guide. I do lots of loot guides, and I'll be doing some for the reprised garden weapons as well very soon, so definitely subscribe if you want to see that. And then sometimes with those weapons, I will do build videos as well, so definitely stay tuned for those. Of course, leave a like, always helps out the video. Join the Discord if you want to hang out with us and stay up to date, and check us out on Twitch, linked in the description. I stream every weekend. I do live weapon reviews over there sometimes I do build testing, and this weekend we're also doing our classic trials of Cobalt, so definitely check that out. 10:30 p.m. Central on Friday. Always a good time, and you might even see me lose a god roll or two. So enjoy the new weapons, enjoy the new dungeon. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you guys next time.